Hello everyone, welcome to my Evil Within 2 Akumu difficulty. No upgrades, no keys walkthrough. And this is chapter 12, Bottomless Pit. And this is another very short chapter. And this is how this whole entire area is going to be. It's a very dark area, and you need to make sure that you are taking the paths exactly like how I take them, and you also have to make sure you're dealing with the enemies properly. And it seems very odd that you can stand at quite a distance away from these lost and still not be detected by them. However, when they go into the investigative status, their range of vision is increased, so they'll be able to spot you at increased distances in this whole entire area. And the flashlight is definitely needed to see where you're going. And also, there's a new enemy type in this chapter, and it also appears in chapter 13, but that's really it. Only 2 chapters does this enemy type appear in, and it is the Suicide Bomber. And the good news is, you can get rid of Suicide Bombers by using sneak kills. And the only reason I knew I could do it the very first time was because I saw it done in a trailer. And I gotta say, Sebastian is pretty ballsy to try to use his knife to deal with a pretty big enemy. Yep, he definitely has a lot more balls than some of the Resident Evil characters. I gotta give credit to Sebastian for, having guts. And it really goes to show why he's able to stand up to the likes of Leon or Chris. He's definitely a lot more proficient at fighting a lot of these unusual enemies compared to Leon or Chris their very first time fighting BOWs. Sebastian is a rookie detective. Leon, his very first time fighting BOWs, was a rookie cop. And then with Chris, he was part of the STARS unit, but even if STARS was a very elite unit, their members are absolutely stupid. Like, I really found Chris from Resident Evil 1 to be just a dunderhead. That's what it really felt like to me. Same with Jill. I mean, like, the kind of things that Jill did, like when Enrico got shot by Wesker, and the way she just responded afterwards, like, it just looks so dumb. And then with Chris, like, Chris just felt like such a timid character, and he was just so goofy with the way he was just responding to a lot of situations. Not only that, but he just looks so weird in Resident Evil 1. Not only does he have an almost baby-like face, but he feels so unrealistically tall. I don't know what it is. Like, he just doesn't look right when it comes to his height, and I think it might have to do with the fact that I've played more as Jill, and Jill's height feels perfectly fine, but with Chris, like, it doesn't really feel right to me. And I know a lot of people complain about the way Chris's muscles looked in Resident Evil 5, but I don't see what's there to complain about. Those muscles look pretty normal. It goes to show just how much physical training he has gone through in order to put him on par with Wesker, given that Wesker humiliated him so much in Code Veronica. Like, that is perfectly fine to me. I mean, like, Abby from The Last of Us Part 2 had muscles just like that because she had to survive in this terrible world she was living in. And then, like, in real life, Arnold Schwarzenegger has muscles like that, and even if he did take anabolic steroids at one point, he's still regarded as being the poster boy for a lot of Olympic athletes when it comes to physical attributes. Like, I don't see why people can find fault with the way Chris's muscles look, but not find any fault with the way Chris looks in Resident Evil 1. And I just find it funny how Watch Mojo can look at Chris from Resident Evil 1 and say he looks very humble in Resident Evil 1. Like, he doesn't feel like a very humble person. He just feels like such a weird individual. He doesn't feel like a normal individual whatsoever with the way he looks and with the way he behaves. At least in Resident Evil 5, he didn't feel anything like that. He actually felt like a pretty believable character to me. And given that he has had a lot of prior experiences with BOWs, it makes total sense why he adopted the stoic attitude that he had in Resident Evil 5. Especially given that he lost Jill in the Lost Nightmares DLC. Like, everything in Resident Evil 5, when it comes to Chris's character, they just feel believable, like, more believable than anything in Resident Evil 1. Like, Chris in Resident Evil 1, like, how can he even call himself an elite member of STARS when he is just such a timid character in Resident Evil 1? And I especially find it funny how there's this one scene in Resident Evil 1 where you can drain a bathtub, and a zombie comes out of the bathtub, and Jill, when she does that whole action, she stomps on the zombie's head, but Chris doesn't do anything. Why? It's so weird. Like, and given that he's a male character and gender discrimination was a big thing with Resident Evil 1, like the 2002 version, I'm honestly surprised he wasn't the one to stomp on the zombie's face compared to Jill. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. That all I gotta say though is, the way Resident Evil 1 portrays some of its characters feels very weird to me. But going back to my main point, you know, compared to the way like Leon and Chris fought BOWs their very first time, Sebastian doesn't struggle whatsoever with these enemies. You know, he actually approaches them from a very logical standpoint, given that he's a rookie detective. And given the sheer number of threats he's dealt with, it's definitely understandable why he's capable of doing things like rolling, or when it comes to dodging, or when it comes to how he just handles a lot of the weaponry. You know, he feels believable, and I especially like the way he's voice acted, even if in Evil Within 1 he didn't really say a lot, and I did not like Sebastian's voice actor in the first Evil Within. He definitely came across as being a bit of an asshole compared to how he's portrayed in Evil Within 2. You know, Sebastian doesn't feel like a robot whatsoever in this game. He actually feels like a character compared to how he was in Evil Within 1. Speaking of Sebastian's character, I do like this scene where Sebastian is able to search inside of himself and he's able to talk with this Phantom of Myra. And Sebastian achieves inner peace, and he's achieved inner peace twice at this point. I really like the way they demonstrate Sebastian's evolution when it comes to forgiving himself and coming to terms with what happened with Lily. I gotta give credit to the game for building on Sebastian's character greatly. But, well, I got lost in the commentary just then, and we're already at the end of this chapter, which is, as I've already mentioned, a very short chapter, but all you really need to know is for the very first area of chapter 12, get rid of the suicide bomber, and then get rid of the guy near the door, and that's all you really need to worry about. And then for the second area, you don't even need to deal with the enemies. I just chose to deal with the enemies just to get some harpoon bolts. But you can just make a mad dash for Lily's doll, and that will allow you to transition over to the third area. And the third area is the hardest area because the spawn, which are the four-legged lost, they are very aggressive. And you have got to be very careful of them because they are very good at surprise attacking you. So get your shotgun ready, make sure you have an axe, and deal with them accordingly. And then watch out for the other enemies, and that's all you really need to worry about with Chapter 12. So stay tuned for the future parts. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.